it off like CP3. Shawty, she calling me MVP. I be on time, it's something you ain't never seen before. They call me the Dama, really want my whole team to score. Damn, yeah, too icy, yeah, too clean, yeah, my zone, yeah, 2-3, yeah, got shooters that hit from deep, bust like Giannis, yeah, too mean. Bright lights like we at the garden, on PD, don't get me started. Whole team walk through me to party. If I can't make the play, I'ma lob it. If you jump, that's right on your head. Had to put him to sleep, go to bed. I'm a star, drop 50 and left. From the logo, like I'm Steph. Put it up, knock him down every time. Going hard like my life on the line. Catch me on the course, I would've down. Never losing, I put it on mine. Had to get out my shit, I've been laying low. They get real when it comes to the playoffs. They fight with me, no one's a KO.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
Ladies and gentlemen, from La Casa de los Lobos, the Pit, here at the University of New Mexico, let's get ready to rumble!
I had to hit you with the triple hey. How's everybody doing? I'm trying to bring more energy than I did when I introduced the show last night, Ed. My name's Ryan. My name is Ryan Tamori. Welcome to the Pit Press Live. Big show today. Good show. Sound like a former president. I'm going to shut up there. Ian Clark's going to join us here in a minute as I introduce my co-host as always. Then we're going to have an interview with Jeff Siembieda, and then I'll hit you guys with the question of the night, as we always like to do. Now, we're keeping this train going, using that metaphor, talking football. Tomorrow night, we'll be back at 8 o'clock Mountain Time. Mike Powers, formerly of KRQE, will be joining us to talk about, those golden years of UNM football, as we are 24 days away from the kickoff. But as always, I am joined And hey, check us out on Twitter, Instagram, hit like and subscribe on our YouTube page. It's all at the Pit Press NM. And always fabulous work by my business partner, Eric Moulton, on the videos. I can't talk tonight. As always, joining me is a Lobo fan since 1970 and the voice of the Western New Mexico Mustangs, Mr. Ed Nunez. Ed, how you doing?
Great, Ryan. It's a great interview last night with Coach Brody at West Mesa High School, and as you mentioned, 24 days until the first game. I'm really looking forward to it. I read a good article today about by Sean Ryder about the team and some things they did in practice. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's always great to have Ian Clark on.
No, I'm looking forward to it. As I always joke, I love Dontrell Moore. He's my 1B. Daniel Ferris is my 1A because he always talks about how Steve Alford kicked his ass. Ian's up there, and we'll get to him in a moment. I just wanted the basketball-wise, the women's schedule was released today, UNM women's basketball. They've got some good games. Gonzaga and Texas Tech. I believe Gonzaga went pretty far in the tournament last year. So super happy. They have a good schedule as well. And Coach Mike Bradbury, again, join the conversation on YouTube and Twitter. But I want to keep our guests waiting any longer. He was a former safety and punt returner for the UNM football team and Highland. So, Ed, you're going to love that. Ian, I think when I had you on our podcast last year, I messed up I was going to drop an F-bomb there. I messed up your stats, but you were a phenomenal punt returner and a great defensive back to watch play during those rocky years. Your name, like Glover Quinn and Blake I always butcher his name,
Ligon.
Blake Ligon, right? And then Jake Blagone. Yeah, man, I know better than that. And then I always think of Carmen Messina, who led the team in I know that was the locks there, but he led the team in tackles at linebacker. I got to throw Jake Bowe out there because he talked about guarding Dennis Pitta, and Dennis Pitta went onto the Ravens and won a Super Bowl, and he was like, that was the hardest guy I ever covered. But you guys, I'm rambling, and I'm stealing your introduction. Mr. Ian Clark's joining us. Ian, how you doing, man?
Doing good. It's good to see you, man. I see you shaved your beard. You look like a 12-year-old boy, man. That's just good.
Thank you for stealing my joke off the record. Yeah, I look like a prepubescent teen when I shave. I'm sorry. As we were talking, I was looking at people are listening are like, what the thank you. Yeah, people listening are, what the fuck are these guys talking about? Ed, I'm going to throw it over to you because you had a pretty good question as we were talking before the show about what Ian might think in regards to the way student athletes are treated now. So I'm going to throw it over to you, and you can ask the old NIL question.
Ian, welcome to the show. And you mentioned, Ian, you're a Hornet just like me, man. And you were a star quarterback there. Judge Chavez always talks about you, who you played for over there, so highly. And as I mentioned, you were one of the kids at Cesar Chavez Community Center, man. When you grew up, we always had some fun there. But Ian, one of the things that Ryan and I talked about this morning, back in the day at UNM when you played under scholarship, there's no NIL deals. There's nothing there. You have, you get your scholarship, your training table or whatever you got back then. Now everything's been flipped. The NCAA was in charge and put people on probation and, for what seemed, minor infractions of rules. And now all of a sudden they don't exist. With this NIL stuff, you're seeing players getting paid some big money. I think it's great. I think they deserve it. But what's your opinion on the whole thing? Because back then, players did not get paid. And Ian, if you played today, man, you'd be getting a check too. They're getting checks now, and they're all into the EA games. Everybody's on the game, and So, what's your opinion of all this NIL things that are going on now? Can the game sustain it, Ian? I guess that's my question too. But what's your opinion of it? Number one, and can the game sustain college athletics sustain this?
I guess I go both ways, man. I think it's great for these kids. Gives them an opportunity to make some money at an early age. I think it's awesome, if they are financially responsible. And I think that even, you see you hear about it often, right? The star athlete that makes a ton of buckets of money in the pros, whatever the case is, and they end up being there's statistics out there that show that these kids go broke by the time, shortly after they retire. So I think financial responsibility comes into play if that's in place for these kids that are making the big dollars. Are we going to ever see something like that at New Mexico? I mean, I think that opens up the door for an extended conversation, which I don't think we'll have time for. But if you guys want to elaborate on it, we can. But like I said, I think it's good. Gives these kids an opportunity to make some money. I think for me personally, if I were one of these kids at one of the bigger schools, my 37-year-old self would be terrified for my 19-year-old self. And I think I would be, honestly, I think I'd be dead. And so, I mean, I don't know if that's happened yet. That's just my honest opinion. And I'm only speaking for myself. But I do think it's great for these kids to make an opportunity. You know, for me, like I had never thought about, I should be getting paid for that. I was just honored to have a football scholarship, to have a free education, and to be able to play at a D1 program and get the experiences that I got to experience. Do I ever sometimes think, oh man, I missed out on these opportunities? I guess maybe initially, like when they first started rolling this stuff out, but you know, I don't think I've thought about it since. I think it's pretty cool. And to some capacity, but again, I can't stress that enough. The financial responsibility and education that these kids need, and where are their heads at? You know, I think we're still developing far past, you know, the age of 18 when you're deemed an adult, right? So just taking that stuff into consideration. You see pro athletes making dumb decisions because they got a big check now. So that's kind of where I stand on it.
Did you? I think I want to. When it first came out the way it did, did you see where it's going now? And who knows? Now they're talking about somebody coming in and setting regulations, whether it be Congress or somebody, because I don't think they can keep going just the way it's going now. It's good. I think that's great that these young people are getting paid, because for years the NCAA made trillions of dollars off images and likeness. Man, billions for sure. I don't know about trillions, but they made a lot of money. They did. So it's good that you know, the athletes are getting compensated. But did you ever see it going this far? And like, we heard about it at first, and we heard, you know, players were making this amount of money, and all of a sudden it keeps going up. The cap keeps going up. Ryan and I were at the Mountain West football conferences in Las Vegas, and one guy said that, you know, a player wanted a certain amount of money, they gave it to him, then he wanted more. They're like, hey man, hit the road, you know. So did you ever see it getting to the point where it's at now? What do you think they need to do to say, hey, we got to rein this in a little bit? Because, you know, you kind of wonder, can they sustain this kind of, you know, economic and keep giving and giving? Can they sustain it?
I guess I would say that no amount of money is ever enough, right? So once you start feeding animals at the zoo, right, they're always going to keep coming back for more, right? And not to say these kids are animals. I'm just using a analogy here, but if there's an opportunity to get more money, you know, with my job, right, I'm always going to fight for more money. And when I start making, oh my gosh, I'm making a good paycheck, right, over time, that's not enough, right? We always want a little bit more. So is it sustainable? I don't know. What I do think it does is I think it hinders smaller programs, because not only that, when you take the transfer portal into account, right, you have some of these schools that becomes already stepping stone programs, right? And I'll, you know, I look at UNM as one of those schools, especially with basketball. We've seen it with time and time again. We get a solid basketball coach, head basketball coach in here, has a couple of great seasons, and he's off to the races, right? So I think it's the same thing, right? If you now open up the door for these kids to say, you know, for these schools to say, hey, we'll get our boosters, because, right, it can't be from the school, right? These boosters are saying that they're going to pay you X amount of dollars if you come to our school. And now it really hurts the program more than anything, in my opinion. So like I said, I go back and forth. There's good things about it. And you're right, Ed, that, I mean, these schools do make money off the likeness of the athletes. And I think it was a couple years after I had finished playing, there was a settlement that is circulating on Facebook, right, for the NCAA likeness. And if you filled out the settlement and some of the guys missed out on it, you got a $3,000 check in the mail. And I remember getting that check and I'm like, oh man, this is awesome. But, you know, I don't even know what the payments are up to now for these kids, like how much they're getting paid just for being in the video game.
You know, I'm going to.
Well, if you're. Yeah. Go ahead. No, go ahead, Ed. I was going to.
One last question. I'll throw it to Ryan after this. But one of the things that Glover quit when we had him on last year, he said that let's say a UNM athlete, yeah, back when you guys played, Ian, Coach Long did a great job of keeping the core guys together. He really did. A great job. You mentioned, Ian, there's some dogs on that team. You always mention that, and there sure was. But Glover Quinn said this, that UNM athletes like Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, right? He's gone to Arizona. He was one of the best running backs for one season. You can make an argument that UNM ever had. So is it a stepping stone? We hate to say, I hate to say that. I want them to stay here. But if they play well and other schools come offering more money, it's going to be tough. You mentioned tougher for the smaller schools. At Western New Mexico, where I'm the voice of, we don't have the money that UT Permian does, that Texas A&M Kingsville, West Texas A&M. We don't have that kind of money, man. We don't. It's just the truth. So do you think that, if New Mexico has some success, is that going to be a problem? Glover Quinn thought it would be. And, going forward, they'd use New Mexico maybe as a stepping stone, which I hope doesn't happen.
I absolutely do think that is that's the whole point I'm trying to make here is you have let's go back to those days, right, when I was playing, and who's not going to try to take Glover Quinn from UNM, right? This guy ends up being an all-star in the NFL and Pro Bowler and things like that. Who's not going to try to pick this guy up and take him away? And now I think Glover, as unique as he is, he's a very unique individual. I think knowing him, he would have stayed for the benefit of the team because he believed in what Coach Long was preaching. But there are other people that not everybody has that mindset, right? Not everybody sees the bigger picture. Not everybody is willing to make a sacrifice in order for the greater good, if you will. So it's definitely going to make it hard for a school like UNM to compete, or harder for these other schools to compete, to stay relevant when money's on the table. Big money's on the table.
Ryan, go ahead, man.
No, that's a good answer. So if you opted into the game, you got $600 and a copy of the game for free. But then there were I think Travis Hunter and what's first? Was it Donovan Edwards, the running back from Michigan, who kind of nobody really knew, and then he had a phenomenal national championship game against Washington, and he's on the cover. And then Quinn Ewers, who's the quarterback at Texas, I think those guys got rather large paychecks. Arch Manning at Texas opted out of the game, and then right before the game came out, EA was like, "Here's $60,000 to be in the game," as if he and that family need money. But we asked. I loved that game, so I feel like I've been a hypocrite for my entire life, especially as we get here. But you were in the game when it was no names.
Right.
But if you were playing today, would you have opted into the game and taken that $600 paycheck?
Yeah, I mean, why not? I mean, why wouldn't I? Like, not for the money, even, because it sounds, from what I'm understanding, if you're telling me they're getting $600 a year, sounds like I made out pretty good by not getting anything and $3,000 on the back end. But yeah, why wouldn't I? I think we all would. It's kind of cool. It's a keepsake. More than anything, it's something that you can go back if your console is still relevant. You could pop it in and show your kids.
Yeah, I asked one of the UNLV linebackers if he opted into the game, and he had the best answer, and it's on our YouTube page, and he was like, "I'm in the game," and I was like, EA should use that. They should pay you and me. But anyway, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. It's we were talking before we got on the air about oh God, now here's all that. Oh, by the way, yeah, 19-year-old me would have been, I jokingly tell people I was going to go to New Mexico State, and I was like, I would have died had I gone to New Mexico State at 19 years old, because I would have just partied my ass off. But anyway, what I was going to ask you is, we were talking about before we got on the air, was about how, and we mentioned Glover Quinn, and I meant butchered Blake Lagone's name and everything, but we talked, there was a couple guys that we talked to, and Glover Quinn had said that there was no name on this team last year. And I'm not trying to put you on the spot, because when you guys played, at least I remember, and even when we went to college, because you and I are the same age and we graduated the same year from high school, but we knew the Dontrell Moores of the world. We knew the Hank Baskets of the world. Do you think it's kind of a detriment that when Lobo basketball, everybody knows Donovan Dent. I'll just use him as an example. But do you feel it's kind of a detriment that we don't like have in Albuquerque, New Mexico, we have any of these recognizable names? Now, Devin Dampier as quarterback can do that. But do you feel like that's kind of a detriment? I hope you understood the question, and I don't want to put you on the spot there, Ian.
Do you mean like recognized by
recognizable names
outside of Urlacher?
Yeah, maybe just in general, I think is what I'm asking.
Yeah, for sure. I thought that all the time, man. I mean, why isn't everybody know who Glover Quinn is? Why isn't there not a mural of him? In my eyes, man, he is New Mexico football. So, I see this. It's almost, I love my state, born and raised here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, but for whatever reason, we just have a hard time uplifting our locals, in my opinion. I hope I'm answering your question. But I think everybody should know exactly who Glover Quinn is. And I think everybody should know who Hank Bass is.
No.
So, yeah, go ahead.
No. That kind of answered it. I think that helped because I think Glover Quinn kind of gets, and it's not disrespect to him, man. And it's not disrespect to any of you guys that played, almost 20 years ago and those good teams under Rocky. I think maybe they get a little bit forgotten. And I mean, no disrespect. Mm-hmm. I love when people say disrespect because they probably are disrespecting it, but I don't mean any disrespect there. I forgot what show I was listening to and somebody said that. I was like, I need to stop saying disrespect. But no, I kind of meant like this day and age, like at least with this UNM team, and I don't know how closely you're paying attention, but it's like, do you think that the unknown going into the season can hurt them where you don't have guys like Urlacher or Glover Quinn or a Dontrell Moore or a Hank Baskett? Does that make sense?
I think you got Luke Weishaupt, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's true.
He's phenomenal. In my opinion, I love watching him play. I don't think he had the best year last year, but I mean, that's the hard part about being a receiver, right? The game's not in your hands from the snap. It's ultimately if the ball's coming to you and if you have opportunities and you make the best of those opportunities. But in my opinion, I'm excited to see what he's going to do this year. But do I think it's a detriment? I don't know, man. Like here we are again talking about the same situation that we were just literally 5 minutes talking about. You get some guys that are doing well and then they leave, right? So it's going to continuously happen. Luckily, Weishaupt is stuck around. I think he's in his final year now. And I've said it from the jump since the first time I watched him play. I'm like, this kid's got an opportunity, to be a utility player, somebody. And I'm never going to say, I hate when people, like they're saying, oh, Simone Biles is the next Michael Phelps or whatever. No, he's going to be his own person, but a player like Edelman, in my opinion, a player like Beasley at that slot position. So he's got a great opportunity. I'm excited to see what this kid's going to do this year.
I appreciate that answer because I think that question sucked. But anyway, we were talking to Landrick Brody last night, and and you played on the defensive side of the ball. Now he was in the backfield, and he said that Rocky had mentioned or had talked about we might not always win the game, but the opposing team is going to lose next week because we basically beat the hell out of them. You guys, and I've loved that, and we were talking prior to the show as. I'm telling the joke again, Ed. My mom wanted me to go play offensive line at like a Big Ten school, and I'm 5'7", 170. I was like 5'7" in high school and like $160. So I'm a skinny POS, but I love football for the physicality. Take us back, and how physical were you guys during your, not the Loxley year, forget that year, but how physical were you guys during Rocky's tenure when you played, and did teams always like, damn, we felt that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll misquote it as well. I wish I could still hear his voice say it. And what he said basically is, we might not always win the game, but I'll be damned if they don't know that they played the Lobos. Like they're going to know. Right. And that was the motto and that was our intention. It didn't matter who we were playing. We were always going to be the toughest the most toughest sons of bitches out there on the field. So I'll kind of like paint a picture for you of my first introduction to UNM defense, right? I'm getting recruited as an athlete. They don't know quite where they're going to put me yet. So Coach Dan Dodd, who is a great resource for me, because my grades weren't the best, but he was at my school damn near every day trying to figure out what we could do to get myself eligible in order to receive a scholarship. But so I finally get my scholarship offer, and they're telling me I'm being recruited as a athlete. They don't know where they're putting me. So I get a phone call from Troy Reffitt, who was the cornerbacks position at the time, cornerbacks coach at the time. He says, "Hey, I want you to come down to the facility, come up to the top floor. I want to show you some game film, just get you familiar, show you around the facility." So I go upstairs and I'm sitting in the film room, and he's like, "Oh, I'll just kind of show you some plays. This is kind of what we do." And I'm watching, and I'm like, what am I doing here? Like, I see everybody, the guy's clearly down, but everybody's diving on the ball. Far after the whistle blows, everybody's so fast. And I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be able to adapt to this. But, you have great mentors within the team that, put you under the wing. Gabe Fulbright, who's since passed away, Mike Padrell, really took me under the wing and showed me the ropes, made me feel comfortable. Jarrell Malone, a lot of those guys that DeAndre Wright helped me to find my way. And it just became a way of life. And so when I'm looking into Coach Mendenhall, right, and I'm like trying to get a better understanding of what is this guy like, what are the things that I'm hearing, how is his practice going, and I hear he's like a hard ass as far as like he's pushing his guys, and then I hear him speak, right, some of the things that he speaks, I'm like, this is such an exciting time for Lobo football, right? Because in my opinion, what we're getting right now is you're getting a sprinkle of Coach Long, and you're also getting a sprinkle of Coach G. And it is like coming full circle with a track record like his. I have high expectations, as he does, of his team, and that's clearly his message.
We had you on with Jared Baxter when the news that broke that Bronco had been hired, and I kind of wanted to transition with that, being that you said that, and he's a hard ass, and the sprinkling of Rocky Long. I don't want the crystal ball, but do you think he can? And it sounds like he is. And the word that we've thrown around on this show, and I think I'm getting tired of saying it, is identity. But do you think he's going to have an immediate impact this year?
I would like to hope so. Let me preface by saying I think that, I always have respect for my coaches, right? No matter who my coach is, I've never in my life said this coach is just out for me. They don't, obviously if they're on me it's for a reason. They see potential. But I will say, maybe we didn't have the best season, Coach Long's last year, but it definitely wasn't the worst. But it definitely was the next year. I have the utmost respect for Coach Loxley, but I think that, just as fast as you can turn a program around. And I think it just wasn't the right fit for Loxley. So let me just say that, because I'm not trying to throw Coach Loxley under the bus. I just think that he was used to a different type of system and a different caliber of athlete that we didn't have a full roster of at the time. So as fast as it all went to shit, right? I definitely think there's an opportunity that, we got to work. He's going to have to work his guys hard for sure, and they're going to have to buy in and believe in the program and what he's teaching. And that's ultimately what it boils down to. But nobody knows what's going on behind closed doors in that locker room, and what the morale is like, and what the leadership is like, and that's really what it's going to boil down to. I had the highest of hopes for Coach G. And I might be biased because I love Coach G. Like, he's like a second father to me. So didn't work out. Wish him the best of luck. I hate Arizona with a passion. But I do think it's a possibility. But I'm tired of saying this is it. I'm just gonna sit back and see, man.
So I'm going to tell you a quick story. '07, we went to that game at U of A. And I wasn't at the paper at the time, so I had a lot to drink that weekend. It was a good time, and it was like, hey, we're at U of A. This is awesome. I've seen the New York Giants play the Philadelphia Eagles in New Jersey with tons of Eagles fans around me. I had never had more shit talked to me than that night in Tucson, Arizona. I got flipped off. We were in the end zone, my buddies and I, and we even had a foreign exchange student, my buddy Mark, who was from England, I think from Manchester. He was with us, and the two guys that we met are still Lobo fans. But I've never had so much shit talked to me than I did that night by the U of A fans. I was like, man, this isn't even a basketball game, but obviously I know it's a rivalry. And you guys went in there and kind of kicked their ass, and it was great. And you escaped with a win. That was a lot of fun. Do you remember? I guess since I brought it up, do you remember anything about that game?
I remember that it was their homecoming, I believe. I remember that it was like kind of sprinkling and a little bit of rain. And I just remember the stadium was nuts, man. I'd never played in an environment like that before until I later went to BYU. But it was just amazing. I think I remember one play out of the whole night. My whole college career, high school, all my football, sometimes I'm like, man, you guys got to study my brain after I'm gone, because how people say, don't you remember this play when you did that or this happened? I'm like, man, I don't remember anything. I don't remember a lot of any of my games, man, honestly. But those are the memories that I have, just the environment.
Yeah, no, I mean, I had to ask that, being that UNM goes there week 1 this year after Montana State. I don't know. I had a great time, and then we, as a student of the university, walking out of there with a win, and it was wild, man. But there were other things that were going on that I was going to say, and I'm not going to, since we're on the record. And a lot, man, the campus, and then the women walked around. It was amazing. Ed, do you have any other questions for Mr. Ian Clark?
Yeah, Ian, I think one of the things, just a couple more, and I know we appreciate your time, but you mentioned the defense that Ian. One of the things that you played for Coach Chavez at Highland, and you guys missed out on a couple things here and there, and could have been a championship. Highland certainly had the talent. It's sometimes, Ian, it's the breaks of the game, man. Sometimes they break for you, sometimes they don't. But you definitely played for a very good coach there, and you had talent. But I think one of the things that I'm hearing you say is, you mentioned Coach Long, who's the best Lobo football coach we've had here, for sure, right? For sure. Coach Francione had some success here, wasn't here, too long. Joe Morrison, 10-1 1 year, gone. Joe Lee Dunn, a few winning seasons, but nobody like Coach Long, who personified the identity of Lobo football for many years. And just by the way you talk about him and Coach G and Coach Mendenhall, if you're saying Coach Mendenhall is kind of a sprinkle of having Coach Long maybe back a little bit. Coach Long, we mentioned at Fort Lewis as a defensive analyst, and he's going to do wonders there. But you mentioned he's a genius. You said that he's a football genius, and so I think having Coach Mendenhall, I keep saying this, was as important a hire for Lobo football as Steve Alford was for Lobo basketball. I think the time you mentioned, the time is now. You're tired of hearing it, and but I think just by listening and reading and hearing what these guys are saying, I think they're all bought in, man. He expects things. They don't do it right, do it again. Attention to detail. So I think it's an exciting time for Lobo football. And just by the way, you mentioned when you came in as a freshman, and you were confused, and you had you mentioned Mike Padrell, another Highland Hornet, Gabriel Fulbright, the late Gabriel Fulbright, all these guys helping you out. That must have been a heck of a time for Lobo football. But I think there's some optimism here. I do. Again, I think he's a winner. He's won wherever he's been. He's turned programs around. Now, I'm not saying they're going to a bowl game the first year. I would never go out on that limb. But I think Ian, people might be surprised at how New Mexico might surprise some people. Now, again, probably not challenged for a conference title, but I think there's some optimism. I do.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I definitely think there's How many years has he been a head coach? Like 18 years, something like that, with like 16 postseason appearances and
16 bowl games.
16. But like, that's insane, man. I mean, obviously he knows what he's doing. Here's the other thing, though, right? Like, again, I will say this is why I just want to see what's going to happen, because when you're at these bigger programs, and my gripe with college football, right, at the high caliber level, is these schools have pick of the litter, right? So, or these kids, right, all the best players want to go to the best schools, right, with the best football program. So they're always going to be stacked. They're always going to be loaded. Now you throw money into the mix. These kids ain't going anywhere. You take a school like UNM, right? Like you really got to work on developing these players. And one thing that I like about Coach Mendenhall is he's got this motto, earn not given, right? And I would give anything to go back and just be a part of that, just to see what it's like, because I remember the grueling days with Coach Long, and the two-a-days and the practice before the scrimmage, and we didn't do it right, so we had to practice again before we scrimmaged the Cherry Silver game, and then like, what are we doing out here? But I mean, there's a method to the madness. I mean, he's got a track record that proves that he knows how to win, and he knows how to get buy-in from his kids, and so I'm very interested to see what happens.
Ed, do you have anything else?
No, that was something Ian, you got a great football mind, man. And man, it's funny. Hopefully you get those memories back of when you played. I know sometimes, you a lot of, you hit, man. There's no doubt you hit. And, but you still got a lot of great memories, and you got a great football mind, and you've been around. You know what, Ian? You're blessed, man. You're around some of the best football minds you could ever be around. You really were, and Coach Long, you mentioned, not only did he shape you as a football player, but as a young man, and now an adult man, who's got, so he, his effect on your life was big, and it's still there. And you mentioned Coach Dodd was or one of the other coaches, like a second dad to you.
No, Coach G, yeah. So
yeah.
I use the same phrase that Coach G always told us as safeties is. And I use this with my daughter on a daily basis, right? Because she wants to be a collegiate volleyball player. And so every time she steps on the court, or when she leaves the court, I ask her, I said, did you get better or did you get worse? Because Coach G always used to say, you get better or you get worse, you never stay the same. And I think that's true. So, just some of these things, these little nuggets that Coach G has had a lot of influence and impact on my life in those years. But yeah, so it's been great.
Yeah, no doubt.
Do it all again on a heartbeat.
I just have a quick question.
Yeah.
I just had a quick question, because these Bronco is a disciple of Rocky. Had you ever had to like earn gear or a jersey? Because that's what these players have had to do. And I'm, again, changing the culture and the identity. I get that. I have mixed feelings on it, but I'm not the head coach. Have you ever heard of that, where they had to earn the actual number and their gear to wear?
No, I haven't heard of it, and I love it. I think that I think we're all individuals, right? Everybody's as unique as their thumbprint, right? And some people don't know the intentions behind it. Some people don't like for me, that is almost motivation. That's why I said I would love to see what this is like, right? To feel just getting a jersey issued, yeah, that's exciting in itself. But when your coach tells you you earn this, man, it has a whole nother meaning, right? And so I think it's great. I think it's an awesome thing. Like I saw it on the UNM Instagram page. I'm like, what? Pick the number? Like he's 15, right? I'm looking at Wysong pick his jersey number. I'm like, I know he's 15. What do you mean? Is he picking a different jersey or? So I had to do a little bit more research. I'm like, oh, okay, this makes sense. Like, I like it. I would love to be there and figure it out. But then you have some kids that are just like, man, what do you mean I got to earn my number, So I don't know. I don't know what it's like behind those doors, man. Maybe everybody's bought in and they're just waiting for their opportunity to earn their jersey. And once they get it, man, they're going to love it. They're going to love that feeling. I can just feel it for them. So.
Well, Ian, I appreciate talking to you, and I make the joke. I've had the pleasure of talking to a lot of UNM athletes, and I'll tell the joke again. I know Ferris. I had classes with Ferris. He's my guy. He's 1A, and he's a funny fucker, which is the truth. And then Dontrell Moore, but you are up there, man. And I've just letting you know. And I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciate your time with us and the insight, because I thought you gave some really, really candid answers, man. So I appreciate you joining us, and maybe we'll bug you during the football season if you don't mind.
Yeah, please do, man. Feel a lot more comfortable after having done this a couple of times. So keep me back regular. Yeah, the thoughts and the responses come a lot quicker. So
no, good. And I don't try. I'm a goofy guy, but I don't take myself seriously. So I hope that helps as I own this company and try to host the show. And I went to school to be a writer, so I don't know. I'd never had a face for a camera in front of me. So I want to this is going to sound very cringe, but I want my guests to be comfortable. But anyway, he is a former safety for the, sounds like I was trying to do casting couch there or something. That's terrible. But anyway,
I don't know what that is, man.
I know we don't want to go there. I don't want my business partner to get pissed off. He is a former safety for the university. That's a great segue. It's like somebody got shot and killed, and then we're going to the jet ski, the squirrel on jet skis. But anyway, he's a former safety for the UNM football team. Phenomenal safety. He'd hit your lights out. And he was a damn good punt returner, and I couldn't find those stats earlier, which was kind of pissing me off. But I know you were electric when you got when you got space, man, on the punt. I remember that, I think 2008. But his name is Ian Clark, and I'm definitely going to bug him down the stretch during football season. Ian, I hope you have a great rest of your night. I appreciate you joining us. Thank you, my man.
Thanks for having me, guys. Good to see you guys.
Thanks, Ian. Appreciate it, brother.
Bye.
All right, we are going to take a quick break. By the way, Ed, we'll come back and get his thoughts on that. Completely love talking to Ian Clark. I think he's an awesome guy. And he and I share something a little bit in common, but I won't get into that. But I really appreciated talking to him. My name's Ryan Tamori. This is the Pit Press Live, and we will be right back.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
Welcome back to the Pit Press Live. My name's Ryan Tamori. I'm joined by Ed Nunez. I'm going to throw this out there before I get Ed's thoughts on talking to Ian Clark. The question of the night, the fantasy world question of the, I wish Ian was on to hear me say that. The fantasy world question of the night, which is not sponsored by them, and I will stop with that. Question of the night: does University Stadium need a revamp or build a new stadium? That That was kind of thrown around on another local radio show in town. But I don't know where UNM would go play, and it'll also get your thoughts on that in a second. But I wanted your thoughts on Ian Clark. I love talking to him. He was a phenomenal player, and he was a quarterback at Highland, right?
He was. And Judge Chavez, who's a friend of mine, Judge Chavez, coached at Highland, coached at Siembieda, and coached at Valley, told me that he and Ian had some head knockers, man. They yell at each other, and he loves Ian, loves him. He also had Bobby Newcomb as a quarterback at Highland, who went on to play in Nebraska. So, Coach Chavez had some pretty good players that played that position. So, yeah, I thought, I gotta say this too, though. What kind of difference does coaching make? The way he talks about Coach Long, he's a genius. They won when he was here. They took on the personality, that toughness. They really did. And I think with Coach Mendenhall, I don't know that he comes across as a guy that's going to lift weights with the players, and not everyone's going to do that. Coach Long did. I'm certainly not advocating for that, but I think players are really buying into his system for what I've been reading. Now, does it translate on the field? We'll see. But I think coaching makes a huge difference, huge. And, I think with Coach Mendenhall's resume and his past, I think New Mexico's in good shape. Now, you mentioned the schedule. I understand that. Are they going to be competitive in some games that maybe we didn't think they would? We'll see. We'll see.
We're talking about this every night now. And we, as this organization and the guys that join the show, and me, who is a co-host of this show, I am trying not to have the same conversation every night. I just don't know what to expect out of this team at all. I have no idea. I hope that they come out and hit somebody in the mouth. I think and I think they're going to do that. And I think that would be very reminiscent of the Rocky Long days. I mean, if you look at UNM 2 years ago, even under Danny, they gave up a lot of points, but that damn defense was on the field the whole time. It kind of resembled what they were doing, and they were hitting people in the mouth. But man, they had the toughest time. I think 2021 and 2022, they just couldn't get off the field.
No,
I can't blame them. But yeah, I think yeah. It's just it's so hard. You're on the, they're playing Colorado State tough. It's 17-7 or 10-7 late in the third. And then the game ends 38-7 because the ball gets turned over and, they're playing on a short field. It's tough like that. And I mean, those 2 years, I thought Danny's defense hit people in the mouth. Last year, they were awful. I mean, over 30 some points per game. And we talk about it all the time on this show at how much we love talking to Danny. And I call him Danny by his first name. I shouldn't, Coach Gonzalez, but I still would have loved to seen him get another year, but it is what it is. And, Ian had some high, all the football players we've talked to have and I don't think it's an act, because I always think about that. It's they seem to have the utmost respect for Bronco. So it is what it is. I was just reading some comments there, but yeah, anyway, I want to go to the question of the night because I guess we're stealing things now and plagiarizing, because it wasn't really a question that was like asked outright, but I think it was last year when it was on the opening drive with Jeff Siembieda and JJ Buck. And we're going to play our interview with Jeff from Mountain West Conference Football Media Days about the stadium. And I went to the tail end of practice last Thursday just to catch some interviews real quick. And I'm walking to the practice field, and I'm not knocking the north end of the stadium. I think the north end of the stadium looks good. And when you walk in, it's not a dump. I think the tower is kind of, I don't know. The tower is kind of an eyesore. And I know it's older. I know the stadium was built in the 60s. Or the tower was. Maybe I'm wrong there if somebody wants to correct me, because I've been wrong a lot the last 2 nights. But I'm looking at the grass that grows on the hill as you get into the stadium, like on the west side by the tower. And if I'm a recruit and I'm looking at that, I mean, I don't know. It just looks so bad. But I'm throwing this out there to you, Ed, because this is a major hypothetical. And I don't know if the university has the money. I'm sure they don't. If you look at what San Diego State did and Colorado State did, it really killed their athletic department with building 2 new stadiums. Obviously, San Diego State needed one because Qualcomm got blown up, and then they were playing in LA for like 2 or 3 years while they were building Snapdragon. And the new stadium, I forget the name of the new stadium in Fort Collins, but it looks really nice. I don't know. And again, what are you doing when you get 17,000? You don't even get 10,000 people that are showing up, or 5,000. I remember counting the fans on the side during the Loxley years, but I don't know. What do you think, Ed? I maybe you keep the north end and you try, and then I know that they have the new weight, the weightlifting facility in the south end, and when you walk in, it's really nice. That tower at the end is a little old, and I know they've redone the offices up there, and when you walk in, it's nice, but the west and east side is just it's not appealing to me. And if you're trying to change this thing around and be a big money maker, I think that would help. And I wanted your thoughts. Sorry for that ramble.
No, facilities are important. They're very important. You look at Utah State, Colorado State, they build new stadiums. But here's, the thing is they've got to win. They've got to win football games. I don't think a lot of people would be very enthusiastic about spending money on a program that doesn't draw the attendance up consistently, doesn't draw good crowds. But if you want to compete in the conference, and you mentioned Gloria Narvaez was in Las Vegas, and we're going to hopefully have her on later on down the line. But she's talked about a number of things, and the Mountain West Conference is trying to move up, keep up with the other conferences, keep up with the Joneses. So if you're New Mexico and you win, you hopefully it's based on Bronco having some winning seasons here. You have to do something about that stadium. I think one of the things that and I don't want to give away the interview. Jeff will talk about that. He's been running the New Mexico Bowl, Jeff Siembieda, for 19 years. And last year you mentioned it. You went to the New Mexico State game. I was down in Silver City. If you've got people coming in and they can't get in until the second quarter, and that's their first game they came to, they're not going to be enthusiastic about coming back. And Jeff Siembieda said it. You've got to give them a reason to come. Now, wins will help, but there's definitely work that needs to be done on that stadium. Now, one of the things that Hunter Green said about the pit, he thought for $60 million they should have just built a new one. That's exactly what he said. They revamped the pit. Some people like it, some people don't. But the pit still remains a magical place for the Lobos to play, college basketball at. So, looking down the line, if they win some games, if they have some winning seasons, they're going to have to do something about that stadium. That's the bottom line. Maybe even if this year goes better, they need to start thinking about it, because you mentioned it's not appealing in some ways. It's hard to get people in, with Wanding. There's only 3 entrances. It needs major work. Now, if I doubt they'd build a new one. I don't think they would build a new one. Money doesn't seem to be a priority for a new football stadium, but they would definitely have to start thinking about making major changes to that stadium for sure.
When I went to the Boise State game, and that was a bucket list item for me, because what I do in my day job, half my team is in Boise, Idaho, and you have to say it right now, Boise. I was with a friend, and when he picked me up at the airport, it was about lunchtime, and we had to travel from the airport. You had to cut. He was like, "We're going to go to campus, and I'll show you downtown Boise." And we pulled up to the campus, and I saw Extra Mile Arena, and which is the basketball, which I saw a basketball game there too. That has it inside the arena was cool. It felt like a miniature professional arena. I'm not knocking it. It was nice, but when you walked in, it was old. The pit, it ain't got shit on the pit. The pit, and as I've mentioned, I've been to the Rutgers Athletic Center, or the RAC, which is now Jersey Mike's Arena. And I walked in there and I was like, Okay. And I've never seen a football game at Rutgers. My parents did. A bunch of people I know. I've never been there. I've wanted to, and they've redone that stadium. That's like 60,000 now. And they get a good a crowd in there. And then obviously under Greg Schiano, and this is what I'm familiar with, people there love Greg Schiano. So that stadium is getting packed, and they went 7-6 and beat Miami in a bowl game last year. But I'm going on a tangent, but when I got to Boise, my buddy Eddie pointed to the football stadium and he goes, Chris Peterson built all this.
Wow.
And then we drove through campus and he was like, Chris Peterson built all this. And Chris Peterson was the head coach. Obviously that 2007 Fiesta Bowl, and they've won 3. And as I've mentioned, I know that this town, this community wants, and I throw it out to mediocrity. And I'm not trying to steal Ian Clark's thunder for what he was saying, because, I've moved back and, I'm kind of happy living here in Albuquerque now. I had always wanted to get out, but I'm kind of happy because I have to deal with all the usual suspects that listen to the show and give me shit. But I appreciate it. And again, I'm glad people are listening. And I'm glad I get to talk sports with you every night, Ed. But what winning and I know not every school can do it. I mean, look at Western Michigan. They got to a Cotton Bowl, but under PJ Fleck. But what winning in football does for the university and the athletic department, this football team needs to win. And I can't believe I'm saying this, because I've always, for the last 14 years have been anti-Lobo football. I except for Danny changed my mind. I didn't really care about Bob Davie, and then I was on the East Coast. I'll be honest. I liked Mike Loxley. I was pissed at what he did, but I didn't care that UNM football lost. I kind of got amused out of it. And again, worked for the Daily Lobo, went to UNM, and 20 years ago lived and died with the UNM football team. But owning this company and covering the team, I'm going to give you my opinion, and I'm going to try not to contradict myself. I would like to see this team win because we can talk about it more and it's exciting. And I have a feeling that if they do lose to Montana State, no one, and having to go to Arizona and to Auburn, and Noah Fafita is a first-round draft pick next year at quarterback for Arizona. He's phenomenal. And I think Brett Brennan is going to do good things there. I don't think anybody's going to give a shit. And I don't think people are going to care if they beat New Mexico State or not. They have what Richard Pitino is going to do when New Mexico State comes up here to the pit. They care more about that. In this long-winded tangent, Ed, and I apologize, I would like to see this football team win because it's exciting. You always mention what it's like you always mention that 30-5 seasons in college basketball don't grow on trees. Look at the 2000, and Ian was on that team, the 2007 UNM football team. They went 9-5. Those seasons don't grow on trees around here. But and I'm off topic, but one of the points with, does University Stadium need a revamp or does the school need a new stadium? Where the hell would this team play if they decided to build a new stadium? You can't throw them at Milne.
No, Milne or Wilson are not options in community stadiums on the west side. So I don't really see an option. Community stadium would be the only option.
Be the best option.
Yeah, Milne and Wilson are way too old. There's no way you could play them there. There's no way. And I got to say, I don't see them building a new one. But I don't. I mean, maybe they do, but I don't see that simply because they haven't had great success. I don't see the enthusiasm in the building a new stadium for a program that's, frankly speaking, hasn't won in a long time. But if they do start, piecing together some winning seasons, I think you'll hear more talk about revamping that stadium and putting in some dollars. Jeff Siembieda mentioned it in Las Vegas, and he knows a little bit about that, having run that. We mentioned the New Mexico Bowl. He knows that. So I think you'll hear talk if they get some winning seasons on the board here. It's going to take a little bit. You just can't give money to a program that isn't winning, and in my opinion. So we'll see.
I'm going to go to some of the comments on what we mentioned. John Romero, University Stadium is awesome to me. With all honesty, I don't get mud out. I don't get out much though. I've never been to Dallas Stadium or SoFi. I've watched a game from the suite with free fruit and heat. That rocks. I wasn't really talking in terms of professional stadiums. I was talking in terms of college stadiums. Obviously, UNLV, as I've mentioned, has the pleasure of playing in Allegiant Stadium. That's enticing to me if I was a pretty good football player. I love college football pageantry. So again, do I want to go, if I was a 5-star recruit, do I want to go play at a traditional college football stadium, or do I want to go play in an NFL stadium in a first-rate city in a first-rate stadium? And they've done a lot with UNM football. We had Joe Rigo from Franchise Sports Media in Las Vegas. I mean, UNLV's campus is nice too. Paul Bonilla, something major that has done not only with the stadium and that entire block. It needs restaurants, etc. Over there from across Lobo Village. Years have gone by and not a finger has been lifted. I agree with that. When you're at, I'm going to use Boise State as an example. And I'm trying to think of other colleges that I've been to. I visited Blacksburg, Virginia, where Virginia Tech is. And I know this is apples to oranges, but that stadium is out in the middle of nowhere, but you're going to tailgate. But that's kind of out in the middle of nowhere. Albuquerque's different. It's a major metropolitan city. Ronnie Chavez, capacity is 40,000. I think the only thing could use in this success is wow, hosting a show and can't talk. Capacity is 40,000. I think only thing it could use is new concessions on the south end. With that being said, why not close the south end and connect the west stands to the east stands? I think that would be probably a good idea. Ice baby, stop, collaborate, and listen. Ice is back with a brand new invention. Win baby, win. Time to spend all that oil money. And then Ronnie, UNM should look at what Boise State has done, because where Boise State going to play, they played in their own stadium all renovated. Yeah, they did. I don't know. I don't think the Isotopes would be too thrilled with football being played on that field. I think it has, but
back in the day, St. Pius, but that was the sports stadium with when the Dukes played there. That was years ago.
Yeah, no. We have talked a lot of football, and I'm going to throw it over to an interview we had with Jeff Siembieda, the executive director of the Isleta. I know he's not listening, but the Isleta New Mexico Bowl, as I just kept calling it the New Mexico Bowl. I got to give him props. I've known Jeff many years now. Ed, you know him. He dresses like Craig Sager, but I love the guy. It's a very interesting conversation. I'll play it. Tomorrow night, Mike Powers, formerly of KRQE. I don't know what he's doing now, Ed. I apologize. You might have to tell our listeners.
Yeah, he's writing for the Los Lunas paper out there. Yeah, he covers the
Valencia County.
Valencia County, doing some writing out there, and yeah, I was glad to connect with Mike at the Greg Brown Memorial, and I asked him today if he wouldn't mind coming on. He was happy to say yes.
He called with Van Tate quite a few games when they played when God, can I talk tonight? When KRQ would air Lobo games back in the day. So just to talk some more, we're talking a lot of Rocky Long era. I mean, that's the most successful era. So I just feel, and I was able to watch it too. But I'm excited to talk to him. So again, we're going to be talking a lot of football. We hit on the non-conference schedule for the men's basketball. But I think there might be some big things on the horizon for UNM football, or I could be wrong, even though I just don't know what to think. I don't know what we're going to get out of this football team. I think they could be 7-5 and go 0-12 or go 0-12. I don't know. I think they're under a coach like Bronco Mendenhall. They're probably better than 0-12. But again, they're still 7. I'm going to mention every day until August 24th. They are consensus out of Vegas, 7.5 point underdogs to Montana State, and that blows my mind. I wanted to go to a basketball comment that I saw And I'm going back to Ronnie Chavez. Missed live show yesterday, but rewatched it. Hey, we appreciate you rewatch. Glad we've got some fans. It makes me happy. 2 points real quick. Joe Coy plays at T-Mobile on November 8th, so it looks like the Orleans Arena or MGM Arena. And who can forget the best walk-on story, Rudy? I'm not going to touch the movie Rudy. That's for another time. I will watch everything college as I do right before opening day of MLB. I have to watch Bull Durham, Major League. Where's my soundbite? Oh, darn it. I lost it. But anyway, oh yeah, here it is. Major League.
Oh, thank God.
Football seasons are right around. Hey, NFL preseason tomorrow night.
Oh, thank God.
Jacob Neff's not watching. I have what I'm saying with that is leading up to opening day of baseball, Ed, I have to watch Major League, Bull Durham. I think Field of Dreams is boring as all hell. It's Kevin Costner talking like this in a very monotone voice. But what I'm doing now is watching everything college football related. I have to watch 30 for 30, the U part 2. I'm watching Blue Mountain State. I've watched Last Chance U. I have to watch The Program. Rudy is not on that list. Ed, are you a fan of the movie Rudy?
You know what? I've seen only bits and pieces. You'd be surprised. I've not seen the whole thing. So, but I got to ask you about another baseball movie, The Natural. What about that one? That's one of my favorites.
Yep. I do like The Natural. I like The Natural a lot.
Yeah. One quick point I want to make to you about, you asked Ian Clark about, New Mexico not having any recognizable names, on the football team. Is at a disadvantage. If you're Bronco Mendenhall, I think it's an advantage because if they haven't got a lot of film on Devin Dampier. Luke Weissong's back. I think there's some players. Sean Ryder keeps talking about the depth that all of a sudden they have in the secondary. I think there's some players there that are going to surprise. And if you're Bronco Mendenhall, I wouldn't be upset that people don't know who we are. They expect nothing from us anyway. They expect us to be in 8th place out of 9. What was it? 11th out of 12. To me, I take that as a challenge and a chip on my shoulder if I'm coaching that team. So it can work the other way too. It might surprise some people that expected nothing out of New Mexico, and all predictions preseason wise have New Mexico last or second to last. That could work in your advantage too, to your advantage.
I agree with you there. And I think he misunderstood Ronnie Chavez. Yes. Oh yeah. I forgot The Program, or unless I mention it. The Program is a very, very quotable sports movie. The linebacker it's Steve Latimer, who does steroids. My friends Steven and Mike, we used to make fun of that all the time. What are you doing leading me on? That movie I spoke to that actor. I was trying to get him on my radio show when I was doing I didn't work for KNML, but when I was doing the radio show on Saturday mornings on 610 The Sports Animal. His name's Andrew Bernansky. He was in Batman Returns as the son of Christopher Walken. I forgot the character's name. He was in Michael Bay's Pearl Harbor, and he was Zangief in Street Fighter. Ed, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about, but for those listening, yeah. I love The Program. Yeah. James Caan. Yeah. James, The Program is I love B movies, and The Program is a B sports movie, but it's not that shitty. Some of the football scenes are but it's a little bit over the top. I don't think it's not the worst movie. I mean, it's not Battlefield Earth, but it's a good movie. It's an enjoyable one that I watched with my friends and made fun of. I forgot what we were talking about. I think it is an advantage, Ed. I think it's a great. I think it might be a huge advantage with nobody knowing who they are, and even us who talk about the team. I don't know. I have to read Sean. I'm going to have to subscribe to the Albuquerque Journal, because I try to read the articles when I can before they go behind the paywall. But I know nothing about this team. I knew more about last year's team. I didn't know who Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt was, and then he just burst onto the scene. So, I mean, some of the players, I know who Gabe Lopez is. I know who Luke Weissong is. We know who Caleb Medford is. Obviously, Devin Dampier. We check out our interview on our YouTube channel at the Pit Press NM with Andrew Henry, who I queued up some of his sound bites because Rick loved him.
Jet sweep, quick screen, inside zone, outside zone counter. You give me the ball, I'm gonna score it.
I hope Rick heard that. Give me the ball, I'm gonna score it. I just have to clip that.
Jet sweep, quick screen, inside zone, outside zone counter. You give me the ball, I'm gonna score it.
You give me the ball, I'm gonna score it. I was going to say that to people when I play them online on EA College Football 25. Give me the ball, I'm going to score it. Yeah, it might help them out. But and Ed, when you today is the last day of July, and we were in Vegas 3 weeks ago, and how time does fly now. But on Saturday, which is August 3rd, you are 3 weeks away from Montana State. They're a full week. They are a full week into practice tomorrow. This is right around the corner. And I'm excited. I'm excited for college football in general. As far as UNM football, I guess I'm cautiously optimistic, and then I'm also the pessimist who's like, they might be really bad. And I don't know if my opinion on the team changes like every day, and every time we start talking about them, it's like when I've heard Bronco speak the 2-3 times I've been in front of him, I was pretty impressed with him in Las Vegas. I know he knows what he's doing. He gave us all the correct answers. I guess because I was a journalist and we are in the media, I appreciated Danny for that. So I don't know if I had much more respect. I get Bronco Mendenhall's thing is not dealing with the media. But he makes a lot of money to work there. And if you want to help the program get back to where it is, that's kind of this day and age. But I'm going to throw this to you, Ed. Does your opinion change every day? You read the paper more than I do. I used to be a big advocate for it, but I don't read it all that often. For what it's become, but I don't know how do you change day to day, or has your opinion kind of stayed?
I think
stayed
when they hired him, I was really optimistic and looking at where he's been and the games that he won at BYU and Virginia. He's a winner, so that was number one. But then hearing Landrick Brody, hearing Ian Clark talk about and then reading Sean Ryder all the time, and we asked Sean Ryder in Las Vegas, what does that mean? Attention to detail. Sean said it could mean cleaning the locker room, earning your jerseys. Look, I've been around athletes for a long time. I played high school ball. I've interviewed athletes on ProView Networks, Western New Mexico, and so you get this sense of optimism. But again, everybody's optimistic in July. Everybody's 0-0. Everybody's going bowling. This is a different program, a different leader, a different general in charge. So I'm getting a lot of sense of, listen to Andrew Henry last night. The guy was funny as heck what he said, but they're really confident. Does coaching make a big difference like that? Can coaching make a difference? I believe it can. Kurt Roth thought they'd win 5. I'm not saying they're going to do that, but you mentioned they could be bad, you said, but what does bad mean? Does that mean they were competitive? Is there games that they lost that they should have lost, but they were in them? What does that mean? In other words, they might have a losing record, but did they improve? Is there optimism, even if they do have a losing record, which they might at the end of the year going into 2025, 2026? That's key to me. I just don't look at the overall record. You look at it like, did they improve? Was there less penalties? Did Dan Pierre become the quarterback that people thought? How was the running back room? What was the lines of scrimmage like? Did they get – that's big to me. That's huge. Or did they get dominated on the defensive line? We asked Gabe Lopez that last 3 weeks ago. Are you going to be able to generate a pass rush? He thought they would. Those are keys to me. The secondary, they've had problems. Did they improve? Even if they had a losing record, is there optimism going into 2025, 2026? We have to look at keys, not just said, hey, man, they had a losing record, but were they better? That's a question mark. We don't know. So, yeah, I think for me, the more I hear, I'm optimistic, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you they're going to win 6 and go to a bowl game. But if they're on the cusp of, have 5 wins and maybe are close to a 6th win, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be. Maybe I'm totally wrong or, a Pollyanna. I don't, I'm just telling you what I think.
I've said it last year. They're only a million penalties away from probably being 6-6.
Yeah,
and they did not make any halftime adjustments. They were beating UMass and UMass stormed back and they held on. Fresno State, I think Fresno State was the only real game they dominated, if I think about it correctly. But yeah, it's we're going to talking a lot of Lobo football. We're hoping to break down each position group as we can. I'm going to go to the comments again. John Romero, Mike Powers, a legendary KRQE sportscaster. Thought he was a news anchor in Idaho or Montana. My apology if my ears were not working. No, he's down in Valencia County writing for the Valencia newspaper. He's going to join us tomorrow night.
He was in Montana for a while. He was. Then he came
was
back.
he? Gotcha. Then he came back. Jimmy H. Montana State fans are really cool and travel well. I'm a big Sky basketball fan and football fan. I love it. That's a good conference. Ronnie Chavez, quick question, Ryan. When you guys have a guest on, is there no interaction with the viewers and guests? What I try to do is we've asked the guests to come on with us. It's always a show for the listeners. It really is. I try to read if it's a good comment, I try to read it. Even if you tell me to go fuck myself, I'll read it, or you like me, or you like Ed, or good points for Rick. I try to read those. When we're talking to the guests, I just try to, not trying to contradict myself here. We prepare for the guests for the most part, and I try to give them the benefit of the doubt that we've asked them to come on, and just out of respect to them. I know not dissing Ian Clark. Ian Clark's not necessarily, the president of the United States or Tom Brady, but we just try to the benefit of the doubt, just give them respect. Again, tomorrow night, Mike Powers, KRQE. Next week, a writer from the East. I got to look it up. I don't want to butcher it. We're going to talk San Diego State football. I'm going to try to get guests on from that cover more teams around the Mountain West Conference. We've had Kevin Lytle from the Coloradoan before we went to Vegas. You can find that on our YouTube page at the Pit Press NM. We had from Franchise Sports Media in Las Vegas, Joe Arrigo, who's a hoot to talk to. You can find that. We talked to him last week. So try to talk more Mountain West Conference football. We're trying to get a football, also a UNM football related guest on every show leading up to the season. And during that, trying to go live every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for the next 4 weeks. I thought it'd be a little bit harder, but it's going okay. Obviously the week of the game, we're going to blow that out of the water, and we're going to do a show on Saturday mornings previewing the game that day for UNM football. We're going to talk a little bit of betting lines and what games we like around the country and preview the Mountain West. We're still trying to come up with a name for the show. And Ronnie, I think you had one, and Lobo Game Day show should be called Morning Howl, live from the den. We're still throwing that out there, and we need to talk about that more. But that's what we have planned. Football season's right around the corner. That means we're going to be in Vegas before we know it for Mountain West Conference Basketball Media Days. They might be joined with West Coast Conference. And November 8th will be, October 28th against UTEP will be here before we know it. But for right now, in the moment, UNM football. Let's see. Go to the comments. Yeah, we're efforting those guys. Katie Hinenda or Katie Hanida. I'm butchering her last name. Somebody threw her name out, and I think she would be a good guest. But yeah, we're trying to get anybody related to UNM football. Check us out. I'm not going to end the episode now. We're going to have our interview. I'm going to play our interview with New Mexico Bowl Executive Director Jeff Siembieda. But that's how I'm going to end the show. But hey, visit us on Twitter or X, on X, formerly known as Twitter, at the Pit Press NM. Visit us on Instagram at the Pit Press NM, Twitter, pitpressnm.com. Mailbag. I thought for some reason I thought it said scumbag ad. Mailbag. Email us at the pitpressnm@gmail.com. Yeah, Katie would be awesome. Yes, Kendra Wilkinson would be really cool. Who's the other bunny's name? Holly, Playboy Bunny. No, I don't want age. Holly Madison. I was a Holly Madison guy. Ed, do you have any final thoughts? Ian was great.
No,
Thank you
no,
again.
No, none at all, Ryan. Looking forward to Ian. It's a great guest. Looking forward to talking to Mike Powers tomorrow night.
Oh, I am too. That'll be great. Yes, I know Kendra was married to Hank. There's a long story there. Ed, appreciate it. Here is our interview with Isleta. Ed, I know I'm saying this on the show, but you're welcome to jump off. I appreciate you joining me tonight and
Thanks,
talking
Ryan.
to me. Here is our interview with Isleta New Mexico Bowl Executive Director Jeff Siembieda. And you know what? I'll go to a quick commercial break just to wait. Any paper cuts, Ryan. You know, I've got a good sense of humor, but I don't get that one. That one flew right over my head. Probably because I'm trying to do 5 million things at once. Going to take a quick commercial break. Ed, I'll talk to you later.
Okay. Right,
again, when we come back, our interview with New Mexico Bowl. I'm going to go back to the comments real quick. Do you guys know anything about a top 50 recruit named Winters Grady who is listing New Mexico in his Final Four? I don't know anything about that, but I will look into it. Taking a quick commercial break, and then we'll come back with Jeff Siembieda.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
All right, continuing our conversations at Mountain West Conference Football Media Days. We're going to pivot. Sounds like we're calling it audible. How's that? I'll keep it to the day.
Omaha.
I don't want to act like I'm in corporate America, which I mostly am during the day. So I like audible and Omaha over pivot. I'm very happy. Ed and I are really happy to have you on. Jeff Siembieda, Executive Director of the New Mexico Bowl, and you can hear him on 95.9, 6:10 a.m. in the morning on the opening drive, 7 a.m. to 10 with JJ Buck. Jeff, how are you doing?
I'm well, fellas. How you guys doing? You having a good time in Vegas?
Yeah.
I know you were here last year, Ryan. Ed, is this your first?
It is. Last night, we did the show by the cabana, and you know what? We had
not by a cabana, in a cabana.
In a cabana.
You guys were the show in a cabana. Well, damn, that's a whole other story.
Oh, yeah, it really was.
Yeah,
Live show, and man,
you guys were hot.
8 bottles of water, and it still wasn't enough, man.
Is that water?
Yeah, those little small bottles, and man, it was just really.
What's the point of the shots of water?
They don't do anything.
They really don't, except make you want more.
It wasn't straight vodka, but
it might be better.
It might be better. 118 degrees.
It's warm.
The difference between 99 degrees and 118.
118 is silly.
Yes.
Everybody wants to be in Vegas. Big 12 is here. They're doing the Pac-12 or the Tupac tonight.
Tupac.
Yeah, the Tupac tonight is over at the Bellagio at the what they're calling it after hours with the Cougs and Beebs. Or Beebs and Cougs and Beebs. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a fantastic name. Is that the Bellagio?
It's at the Bellagio tonight, yeah. Yeah, they're doing their little event.
late night at the Bellagio with Cougs and Beeves. That's got to be.
Yeah, they didn't focus group that one very well.
Imagine that.
Yeah. That's available for you on Netflix if you're over 21.
21, yeah.
Hulu. Yeah.
Skinamax. Jeff, you're like everybody here.
I know a few people.
And
that's what happens when you've been here a while and you get older.
I was going to say that. Does your approach change every year? I don't know why I'm asking you that for media days, because I feel like a good chunk of people here can bullshit with the best of them, but
we're allowed to say that on the podcast?
Yeah, I do.
Okay,
I do.
Sure
No, I own the business. I own the business, so I can. I'm sorry. Does it change for you every year? Sorry to catch you off guard with the curse word.
No. I mean, there's no off guard. So it doesn't change for me from a bull perspective, and I tend to come here wearing two hats, and kind of I'm not this year, and that's just my option. So as the executive director of the Isleta New Mexico Bowl, it doesn't change.
Pardon me,
much.
I'm sorry. I forgot Isleta.
What's that?
I didn't say Isleta New Mexico Bowl. I'm
the
sorry.
corporate sponsor stuff?
I didn't.
I'll just tell you, Isleta's been very good to us, and I mean I understand, and I'm not angry. But as an executive director, no, it doesn't. I come here. My job is to continue to build my relationship with the conference, with the commissioner. Had lunch with the commissioner today, and go to an event tonight with the coaches and build relationships with the coaches and get to know the student athletes and the media around the league. So when December comes, when whomever it is that we're hosting shows up, it's not an introduction, right? There's a familiarity, and I've got a relationship with Jay Norvell, with the athletic directors. That's why I go to league meetings in Scottsdale in May and have these and go on sites during the year. So from that perspective, it has it. For the media perspective, I've watched this thing evolve. I've been coming to these, since I was at Channel 7. And when the league started, and this year I've just kind of taken it from a radio. I backed off all the interviews, and that's just a personal decision from what we were going to do content wise. But I've always enjoyed that. I've enjoyed the conversation with the student athletes over the years so much, and I think you guys probably figured it out today. There's some really great stories when you get off the hey, are you guys running the 3-4, and just into some personality with them. There's some really cerebral and great student athletes here.
Right off the bat, the defensive lineman from Boise State, I'm going to butcher his last name. The defensive end for Boise State, who grew up in Egypt. He's only been playing here 5 years. It's a phenomenal.
And now
story.
He's preseason conference player of the year.
Yeah, he's co-defensive player of the year. I mean, who would have thunk?
Yeah.
And the best answer he gave was he didn't understand the sarcasm in us Americans, which is one of the better.
That's why you didn't get your ass kicked.
That's why I didn't probably get my ass kicked. Yeah, which was a great answer, and I'm standing upright without a black eye. Talk about how you partnered with Isleta, because I do think it is fantastic that it is the Isleta New Mexico.
It is great for us. It's we had a vacancy in our title sponsorship, and it just so happened to be our agreement with Isleta, which is about 14, 15 years old. If we're going on our 19th annual, so I want to say this is our 15th or 16th year partnering with Isleta. They've always hosted our luncheon, our kickoff luncheon. And so our agreement was up, and I went back to them and had a conversation. I said, are we looking to do what we've always done? And they said, well, what else do you have? And I said, well, you can throw me out of the room. But would you like to have a conversation about entitlement, about the Isleta New Mexico Bowl? And the response was, we've had that conversation internally. What does it look like? So we went down, I sent them what it looks like, and I presented to tribal council, which I had no idea what that meant when they said you were on the docket for tribal council. And it was a really, really great experience. They asked great questions, engaging questions. And I said to the tribal council, I said, y'all, I might have said, maybe I said y'all. I said, I'm not looking for a sponsor. and I got those weird looks. What do you mean? I said, I'm looking for a partner. If this doesn't work for you and for us, we're not going to do business together. Now I'll still come and come to the casino. I'll still have you come out to our game. I'll play your golf course, but it's got to be mutually beneficial. And they saw an opportunity to bring Isleta to a national stage. to an ESPN audience, to a worldwide audience, and the name of the game, the Isleta New Mexico Bowl. And we had some conversations, and it was mutually beneficial. And the first year and a couple of months has been terrific. And I love that it's a local group, a local entity that, first of all, the Isleta brand, if you look all around our community, they're everywhere. They do great things in our community. So it made sense, and it made sense for both sides. And I'm proud of them. I'm proud of what they've done as a tribe, as a property, and they've been a wonderful, wonderful partner so far. And I say so far, it's been 15 years.
Yeah. You recently, I don't have the email in front of me, Jeff, so forgive me for doing my journalistic due diligence. You are now a secretary of the bowl committee. Could you elaborate on that? And congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's bowl season is the formal name on what used to be called the Football Bowl Association. So it's all the bowls, the Senior Bowl as well, the Celebration Bowl. It's our association. And a little over a year ago, I was nominated to the executive committee. And so I this year I will serve as secretary, and it's I believe 8 people. So I sit on an executive committee with representatives from the Fiesta Bowl and the Sugar Bowl and the Las Vegas Bowl and the Holiday Bowl, and I'm leaving out all their corporate sponsors, and I apologize.
You learned from the best on that.
And I've left out a few, but it's an opportunity, and you guys, here's why I did it. In fact, when I was offered, when I was nominated, I was in Vegas for the conference basketball tournament. So I remember I was over in the Virgin Hotel, and I got a call, and I was nominated. And gosh, do I want to do this? It's a lot of time, right? And my plate is full with everything I've got going on. Do I have the time? And I talked to some people, and it kind of came down to I can't not. For our event, for the Isleta New Mexico Bowl, but for Albuquerque and for New Mexico, to have a seat at the table, have a voice at such an insanely critical time in college athletics, I had to say yes. Now, whether I can make a difference, we'll see. I was told you talk more at your first meeting than any rookie we've ever had on this committee, and I said, look, then if you're asking, you want me to be here, you're gonna hear what I have to say. But you guys, it was an opportunity. Albuquerque's represented now in a room with the big dogs in college football. I go in January to a meeting and sit with the conference representatives, SEC, Big 10, Big 12, all of them. Now, am I going to tell you I'm a big dog in this? I'm not. I'm part of an executive committee that has a voice. I'm in on some meetings that I've never been on before. I hear some things. I've got access to stuff. And it helps me make decisions for our event locally for the future. And it's not breaking any news. It's a volatile industry that we're in. I mean, college athletics, and everybody says, well, NIL and portal. Yeah, that's the tip of it. Right. I mean, from realignment and roster limits, but what does it mean for my industry, for bowl games? And specifically, what does it mean for our community? You guys, I believe the Isleta New Mexico Bowl is the premier annual sporting event in our state. I'll listen to any argument, and we can have that conversation. It brings in millions of dollars to our community, puts us on a national stage. We're going on 19 years for an event that everybody told me I was nuts, that wasn't going to last. What are you going to do when the bull dies? I'm like, damn, like I'm the only one dumb enough to think this thing's going to be around for a while. And we're planning our 20th anniversary next year. And I want this thing to be as stable and as strong as it can, because it does great things for our state.
I think that right now, when they put you on that committee, it's an experienced voice, someone that's dealt with a bowl here, New Mexico Bowl. You mentioned that 20 years. Someone that is a champion for New Mexico, knows about the culture, the community. When you mentioned Isleta, you mentioned the culture of the tribe. Do we talk enough about that? Maybe not. Maybe we don't.
Yeah, maybe not.
And they deserve all the accolades and all the praise for what they've done in the community. And it goes back years, right? Years and years. So I think having you on that committee is just a boon for us too, because you mentioned you're going to sell Albuquerque, you're going to sell the bowl, you're going to, it's important because some people sell Albuquerque, New Mexico. What's that about? So you're there, and then you sell the event, you sell the bowl, you sell the community. It's great that's a boon for us, a big one, because you got, and it's a long way from Channel 7, right? Long way. now, and that's not a knock, Jeff, at all. I mean, I don't know that you could have envisioned. You mentioned that when you started it, And I guess that's my next question. Could you have envisioned it getting it where it's at now and where you're at?
I don't know. First of all, thank you. I appreciate the kind words. I'm an advocate for our community.
Yeah, that's important.
I don't know when you're from somewhere, but 28 years, it's home, man. I've raised my daughter there. I've raised my family. I grew up somewhere else, but I mean, I love where we live. I love where we are, and I'm going to fight for it. Can I envision this? So there's part of me that says, yeah, I actually envisioned it bigger. I'm not going to be done fighting, because when we started the event, and I was obviously on the ground floor, I envisioned some really big things for what then the New Mexico Bowl and the Isleta New Mexico Bowl could become. There's part of me that did envision that. For me, I mean, I never really thought, what would I be in the bowl world? I don't know that I'm in it. Like I'm nobody, man. I run a little bowl game in Albuquerque, but I love the fact that our community.
All right, continue.
When we started the event, and I was obviously on the ground floor, I envisioned some really big things for what then the New Mexico Bowl and the Isleta New Mexico Bowl could become. There's part of me that did envision that. For me, I mean, I never really thought, what would I be in the bowl world? I don't know that I'm in it. Like I'm nobody, man. I run a little bowl game in Albuquerque, but I love the fact that our community has access to that room. Like Ed, when we sit in some of these meetings, I look around, I'm like, damn, dude, you're San Diego, Miami, New York, Dallas, and Pickett. And we're there. And so I look at it as a pride factor for our community that you guys were on the map. And you're right. I get so many questions about Albuquerque. Gosh, I was there once, and what's it like? And it looks beautiful, and people want to know more about it. I'm like, yeah, come out. And then people like our golf event was for our stakeholders was 3 weeks ago. And Alan Gooch, who runs the Cure Bowl in Orlando, came out for our event. Gosh, it was great. God, your people are great. You want to come out and see it and play our golf courses. So, long answer to a simple question. Yeah, I kind of could envision it. I envisioned it being a little bigger, and I'm not done. I still got a little life left in me, because I was dumb enough to think, this thing could be really big, and I'm working on that. I'm working on it. But I never really thought personally, where would I be in this whole thing? I'm just an idiot running a bowl game and doing a radio show and raising a little girl.
Sometimes opportunities, they arise and for the right people. And like I said, you've been here a long time. You're proud of the community. You're proud of our culture, which is diverse. I love Albuquerque. I've been here all 62 years of my life. I'm not going anywhere. My son's here, thank God. My granddaughter's here. My family's here. So when people say something about Albuquerque, I'm like, you know what, man?
Back off.
Get to stepping, bro. Get to stepping in,
right.
Or get, there's I-25 or I-40, because this Albuquerque's home. Yeah. So I think having you on that committee
it's funny when people come for the game, they realize it, and that's why our game has the reputation it does. And
I don't mean to interrupt you. I always hear good things about it. I've been straight shooting you. I always hear good things about it.
Yeah, I'm proud of that, and thank you. So I was at dinner the other night, 2 nights ago here in Vegas, and it was the Rose Bowl and the Orange Bowl, the Liberty Bowl, the Vegas Bowl, the Sun Bowl, and so we're talking about a bunch of stuff, and we got around. How about your game? What do you do? And I was looking around. People are asking me questions. How do you guys do this? Now, look, we don't do everything perfectly, but it was really cool to get the validation that what we do is right. and the respect we have. No, I will argue we have more respect outside of our market than we do inside. For whatever reason, like, it's one of those things that I'm fighting, and I'll continue to fight, and I don't get it. But it's kind of like, why don't people go to Lobo football? But we'll get there. But it's you guys. It's yeah, I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it, and I'm not afraid to say I'm proud of it. I know what we've put into it. I know what the obstacles have been. I don't know what the obstacles will be. I know they'll be there. But it's something that I know we did the right thing the right way for the right reasons in our community, and it's a quality of life event. So like Hamilton comes to Popejoy Hall.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you went, maybe you didn't.
Did.
All right,
My wife
maybe
and I
it was
did.
for you, maybe it wasn't for her. Right. A great concert. Snoop Dogg comes to Isleta Amphitheater, and I went. Maybe you didn't, but it's a quality of life. It's like another play, another concert. It's something big that's on our map. And look, if you don't want to go, that's cool, man. Don't go. But there's zero negative about what we do, and the upside is insane. It's starting with the economic impact.
Lost my train of thought. I'm incredibly
right.
sorry there.
I didn't mean to.
No, I was going to ask you something else, and I was like, I interrupted you, and I was like, I wanted to let you know and you've had, from a football aspect, I mean, I'm going back over a decade.
Great games.
You've had great games.
That's very good games.
And that's why I like talking to you a lot, Jeff, is because I'm a big college football fan, and you're more intertwined than I could have ever imagined I could be. But from a football aspect, your thoughts on the playoff expanding? I'm all for it. Do I know if it's right for the sport? No, I'm just some schmuck in Albuquerque, New Mexico. But how do you feel about it?
We're here, and so let's see how it goes. I thought 4 worked. I'm one of the few who thought 4 worked. Every year, except for probably last year, we really didn't have a big controversy. We got the right 4.
Mm-hmm.
And, I thought we kind of played down into the playoff through the conference championship games. It's like the NCAA tournament. I think everybody's already in the NCAA tournament. We just call them conference tournaments. We're all playing single elimination to get down to it. And if you get knocked out in the MEAC tournament in the first round, where you get all the way through, it's kind of an expansion of one big tournament. But here we are at 12, and I'm interested to see how it works. I want to see it for a couple of years like everybody else in the industry. I look at it from a bowl perspective, and does it dilute the bowl system? And I would argue that it doesn't. So the inventory is the same. People say no, there's not going to be enough teams. No, there are. It's the same number of teams. Okay, you're going to have 4 teams in the playoff who do not play in a bowl game. Okay, those first round games are on campus sites. So the teams who lose will not play in a bowl game. You got the next weekend, the 4 teams who win are going to play in 2 bowl games.
Right.
So the inventory is the same. Okay, from that perspective, bowls are healthy. What are the teams in this room playing for? Look around. There's San Jose State. There's Colorado State. There's UNLV. What are they playing for?
A bowl game.
And there's 136, whatever the number is, FBS teams. 12 of them are going to get into the playoff. 38, 45 have a legitimate shot for a playoff. What's everybody else playing for? They're playing for a bowl game. And I'll tell you where we sit right now. I argue this point too. We're in a great spot because if you look at who did we have last year? Fresno State, New Mexico State. They weren't going to the playoff. They were happy to be in a bowl game. They were happy to be in our bowl game. The year before, SMU BYU, great game. National television, ABC, primetime. They were happy to be in our bowl game. The year before, Fresno State UTEP, another really good game. They were happy to be, and just go down our list. So we're in a really healthy spot right now because unless there's a split, right? The Power 4 conferences split, and they have nothing to do with the Group of 5. Then we're in another conversation. The playoff will be interesting. It'll be fun, and maybe it's time. And we're going to see, and it probably is time. And you didn't ask me about the bowl system in the playoff, but as a bowl guy, I went there. I think the playoff's going to be great. 12 is good. It's an interesting number. The format's interesting. I want to see how it works. We'll all watch it for a couple of years and see where it goes. I just hope it's equitable and gives everybody a shot.
You mentioned
and the teams in this league, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No.
And the teams in this league now have a shot. There's a guaranteed Group of 5 berth. Now you're going to say, yeah, whatever, it's scraps. Well, but you didn't have a scrap before. You had a scrap to get to the Orange Bowl or for a New Year's Six Bowl. You did not have a real shot to play for a national championship. Now you do.
Yeah, it's we had somebody from the team of the conference that thinks their team has a chance to be in that 12-team playoff. So, things have changed, and who knows whether they do or not, right? But it gives people, like you mentioned,
They wear blue and orange, or they wear red
no,
and
that's
silver?
actually it's UNLV.
UNLV. No, I know UNLV really believes that.
Yeah, so they really believe that they have a chance. Jeff, you mentioned the change for the playoff format, which is 4 to 12. But I got to ask you this: these NIL deals, right? Now, and we mentioned this on a podcast the other day. The NCAA back in the day, if you took a meal on the weekend or took a hamburger or they would put your program on probation, suspend you. They've been muted, practically muted, and now these NIL deals. What has surprised you about this sudden and quick change? And as far as athletes, getting paid what they're getting paid, can this kind of thing continue? Can it continue on this kind of?
It will continue. Yeah. It will continue. What surprised me, maybe the speed of it, but more so the lack of any. And the word is guardrails. It's been used so much. There's just no uniformity to it, and I don't know if there's going to be when revenue sharing happens. And so you throw that amount of money into it, and the difference what Michigan can spend as opposed to what Nevada can spend, right? We're gonna have. Are we playing the same game? It's here, man. I'm trying to remember which coach at the Big 12 said it yesterday. It might have been Mike Gundy.
He said a lot of things.
Yeah, he said a lot of things yesterday. But there was a question said, well, soon you're going to be paying athletes. He said, make it very clear. We are paying the athletes. The athletes are on a salary. They're getting paid. So what surprised me, the fact that there are no controls on it. That is, they're doing one thing and they're doing another thing and theoretically playing the same game. I think what happens ultimately, it comes under the institution, right? It has to come internal. Now the coaches all know what that kid's getting, even though they're not supposed to have any part to do with it. Collectives will be basically another fundraising arm. And it's an arms race, and the rich get richer, and the poor get the picture, and the bombs never hit you when you're down so low. It's midnight oil.
Man, I got to think about that one.
No,
all right,
I know that.
No, that makes a lot, especially about the almost like free agency. They used to say that with baseball, Yankees had the most money, right?
Well,
back in the day.
Even there, you got a contract. Like if you play for the Yankees, you're a free agent. You got to play through the playoffs.
Right.
Here, they're leaving before the postseason. Right. The transfer portal opens when bowl season starts. What are we doing? Now, the theory is, we got to get
Rasheen Rice.
Yes.
With that Siembieda,
the theory is, we got to get them into school. So the transfer portal is going to go basically December. But then you're going to tell me Nick Saban retires at the end of January, and those student athletes have a 30-day window to transfer. So they're going to start school in March? So obviously it can be done to NIL. This is my feeling as an individual. NIL should include the postseason, whatever that means. Whether it's a bowl game, whether it's a conference championship game, whether it's a playoff, you're getting X number of dollars NIL. It goes all the way through every game your team plays, and then the portal. The fact that you got the transfer portal opens when bowl season starts. What are we doing?
Yeah. Florida State.
Yeah. Well, look at Florida in Vegas a couple of years ago.
Right.
But 28 players didn't opt it out.
Right.
That's right.
Oregon State beat them.
Yeah.
Forgot about that. I could forget about that.
They smoked them.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's right.
There are much smarter people than I'm just happy that I think with the use of name, image, and likeness that these kids are getting played. But when you look at it, it's ironic. If there is such thing as irony, we live in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It's like the Wild West to me. I don't.
Well, it's not name, image, and likeness. It's pay to play.
Yeah, it's
right?
pay to play.
And I think we've gotten to the point now where we call it NIL, but it's a salary. What I'm interested in is they're all going to be on salary. Do they have to go to school?
Legitimate question.
If they don't have to go to school, all right, then you don't have to give them a scholarship so you can save that scholarship money. And I don't know. So I got a lot of questions.
No, Pandora's box. Those are legitimate questions.
No, it's open, and it's not going to open. It is wide freaking open.
If you think about it, Jeff, Norm Ellenberger would have loved the NIL. Jerry Tarkanian would have loved it. Bobby Knight, not so much.
So Barry Switzer told me this about a month ago.
Oh, yeah, you interviewed him for Story File for ProView Networks.
About a month ago, Barry Switzer told me NIL. He kind of laughs. Says, you know what it means? Now it's legal.
Yeah.
Now it's legal.
Jeff, if you could just real briefly talk about that. The guy won 3 national championships at Oklahoma, won 1 Super Bowl to Dallas Cowboys. At Oklahoma, I was just talking to somebody about this today. He had swag. He was the man, right? He was. Now Dallas, not so much.
Kind of does, dude.
Dallas, not so much.
Yeah.
He wasn't that kind of coach there. But tell us in your dealings, your interview with him, what's he like now?
He still has it. He's 86 years old. So, I mean,
86.
His back hurts a little bit. But he is so sharp and remembers everything. And there's still that swag. There's still that, he lives right across. Somebody told me he was on campus. I guess he lives basically right at the University of Oklahoma campus.
Really?
And he walks his dogs on campus every day. And he says he's got a house that, like, there's a side part of his house and sleeps 9 or 10 that when student athletes don't have a place to stay, they still come over and they stay at his place, and they cook meals and they stay there. And he just loves the University of Oklahoma. Like, he loves it. And he is sharp. He told unbelievable stories. When this is available, the story file that we did, I think you're going to love it. I just be able to talk to Barry Switzer. It's going to live in the Oklahoma Historical Museum for a long time. But you said swag. He still has it, man. He still has the swagger. There's still that confidence and listen to him tell stories and just the command he has of a room when he walks in. Now he wanted a Hershey bar, and so I went to the vending machine and bought a Hershey bar, and he could not believe it was $2.75.
Wow.
He's like, what the hell did you buy? I said, it's what you want, a Hershey bar. $2.75, guy. A couple of words. Well, you can say it on the pit press, I imagine.
Yes.
Yeah, you can. But he thought it was a quarter, 50 cents. Yeah, he missed that part of the evolution of it. The Hershey bar is going up to $2.75.
Does he sport any championship rings from Oklahoma or Dallas?
Oh, yeah.
He does. He busts them out.
Yeah, well, he had one.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wore one.
No,
Yeah, I'll show you the picture.
Yeah, I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
He's got too much confidence, and I don't know if I want to use the word arrogance, but yeah, I could see him repping.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
Well, there's a fine line between arrogance and confidence.
Yes, there is.
And a guy like that, he's got every right to be confident, man.
No, he does. Regardless if it was Jimmy Johnson's team.
Well, people give him a hard time, right? Was it his team or not? I don't know, man. Who hoisted the trophy?
He did.
It was him.
And by the way, what he did at OU, we really can't argue.
No.
You really can't argue it.
Did you ask him anything about Brian Bosworth?
Yeah.
At that part, I would be.
Yeah, he's a big fan of Brian Bosworth. Too.
Billy Sims. You get a Billy Sims question in there?
We did get a Billy Sims question in there. Yeah. I think it was pretty comprehensive. We spent a couple of days with Barry, and we talked to him about. we said something about if you were coaching today, you can't see the ring. Doggone, it's on his other hand. But if you were coaching today, how would you do? He says, I kick everybody's ass. Yeah. Still looks good though.
That's a great picture.
He looks great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From one coach, yeah, he looks good.
You know what? He's got no U shirt on, right?
Yeah.
Got no U shirt on.
There you go. I'll show you.
Of course he does.
It's funny because what I remember about those bowl games, the wishbone, and then when they'd score, they'd break out the chuck wagon, right?
Yeah,
That to crack me up, the Boomer Sooner.
That's what he said. He said, I'd run the wishbone, nobody could stop, and I'd kick everybody's ass.
Doesn't sell, right? Because people want to see the footballs flying through the air.
Well, okay, so I think you're right because I typically would counter you by saying winning sells.
Right.
But I'm going to take you back to 2016 New Mexico.
We said this, yeah.
They led the nation in rushing.
Yep.
They won 9 games. The fan base, it's not exciting. It's too boring. We're not throwing the ball all over the place. I'm like, holy smokes. I remember watching that team run up and down the field. Terrion Gibson was unbelievable. They had 3 running backs that year that were running up and down the field. They led the nation in rushing, won 9 games in a bowl game.
Did it move the attendance meter?
No, and they were in contention to win the conference or the division championship up until that last game. They played Wyoming the last game of the year. Boise State had to lose. They didn't. So they finished second in the division that year, right? And I was sitting in the Sheraton. I think it's the Sheraton Anaheim. I was there for the at the time it was the Wooden Classic. It's one of our ESPN events games. And I was with my boss at ESPN, and we're talking about something, and he looks up, and that game was on. He says, "What the hell's going on? Like, why is there nobody at the game?" And it was a typical November New Mexico football crowd. Like, that's what I'm telling you, man. Like, that's what I'm fighting.
Yeah.
You know, I wish you guys tell me what you think. And I said this on the radio the other day, and I've said it before. I feel like we're missing out on something cool. So you look around this room, right? And you see Colorado State, and you see the Boise State fans. You see what's happening at Fresno State. You see the crowds they get. We all watch college football on Saturdays. What college football does for a community, what it does, and look, we have college basketball, and it's great. And I'm not telling you, this is not, if you like Lobo football, you're not cheating on Lobo basketball. Like, you're not.
Right.
And I tell people all the
agree.
time, you can have two loves. You're not cheating on basketball if you support football. But I go all around the country and watch games. It's my job. I'm very, very fortunate. I know how blessed
I'm
I
very,
am.
very jealous.
No, I know how lucky I am. But I watch what it does for communities. I watch how fun it is. I watch how cool it is. I just feel like we're missing out on it. I'm not mad at people for not going because the product hasn't been great. But I don't know. Do you guys feel the same way? Do you feel like we're missing out on something?
But I'll let you go. Oh, okay, I'll go first. I do. I love. I've never heard you say that, and I do try to listen to you and JJ in the morning.
Thanks.
For most days, I discovered the guy on Last Chance U, Coach Jason Brown, who's hysterical, and I've had him on recently. Yeah. No offense, I'm not cheating.
I'm not mad at you. They still pay me.
I'm cheating on you. Well, yeah, it's good. Yeah, okay. But I don't even have a joke to that. I'm sorry. You've been to the pit millions of times, much like both of us here. The atmosphere, when I lived on the East Coast, and if you travel and say it, I always say that and I shit on Albuquerque. I'm sorry, there's my curse word again. I even though I'm from Albuquerque and I've moved back, I don't know, I've embraced it more. I've told these guys, I've told my friends. Nothing beats that atmosphere in the pit for me. It's awesome.
It's really good.
I don't understand, because when you walk in the north end of the stadium at University Stadium, it's not that bad. I think the South, they need to figure something out.
You just have no access. You're just closed off. You think of any other stadium in America, you got 360 access. You've lost access to that whole thing. It's a bad design.
I think a lot of people were rubbed the wrong way with the New Mexico State game last year.
Just because they couldn't get in?
They couldn't get in. And I don't understand. I don't understand why people don't go. When I lived in central New Jersey, Rutgers wasn't that good, but damn it, Piscataway and New Brunswick and college, there were people there. People cared.
I like hanging out with people. I like having a couple beers in the parking lot, grilling up some food, laughing, talking, seeing people, and going and watch a ball game. I mean, but that's me. Yeah, right. I like that.
A couple things.
I don't even know if I answered that question, but there you go.
No, you did.
I've been a fan since '70. Okay, long time. I remember listening to Mike Roberts when Rocky Long was a quarterback. So, this has been my experience with Lobo football. The minute you walk around the concourse and they lose one game, this is back in the day, even back then. When does basketball season start? That's when you start hearing. So, since Bob Davey, you mentioned 9-4, right? We had Daryl Chestnut on our podcast a couple weeks ago.
Oh, nice.
Daryl Chestnut, Terrion Gibson, Jarrell Presley, and Lamar Jordan.
Yeah.
They had some talent, right?
Yeah.
But it didn't move the attendance meter. And since Coach Davey left, they're 21-60 since 21-60.
Right?
Yes. Yeah. Danny.
Well, there's your answer.
Well, so here's the thing. Now, I'm going to ask you another question after this, another follow-up. But I love Lobo football. I've loved it since I'm a big fan. I'm hoping they're going to turn things around here. But people, and you're a former, your friend, Bob Brown, told me this, hey, if you're a football town, you're there at 12, you're there at 4, you're there at 7. And Bob's right. Fans are there, right? If you're a football town.
Doesn't matter when it starts.
This isn't a football town. It's never been. Now, I'm hoping it changes. There was pockets of success a little bit with Franchione, right? He leaves. Joe Morrison is 10-2 in 1982, 10-1.
Yeah.
No bowl game, right? And then Coach Long had the most success here, and Krebs runs him off.
The late 90s, the crowds?
Yes, I was there.
Crazy.
I was 44,000. I was there.
I was too.
So, but I guess here's my follow-up question to you. Now, you and I talked a little bit about it earlier this morning, but I think, to me, that the hiring of Bronco Mendenhall is just as important as the hiring of Steve Alford was as the head basketball coach.
I hope so.
What do you think?
I hope so. I mean, it's really important. So yeah, it's really, really important. I want to go back to something you said. It's not a football town.
But it could be.
Walk around town, you see more basketball jerseys or Cowboy, Bronco, Steeler, Raiders jerseys?
Cowboy Bronco. Yeah.
What are people doing on Sundays in the fall?
Watching
It's not
football.
a college football town for whatever reason, but I would argue it's not a football town. Friday nights, Cleveland, Rio Rancho, pretty packed, aren't they?
They are.
And so why isn't it a Lobo football town? And you hit the answer, Ryan. I mean, they're not winning. 20-61 is it's a hard number to eat. You can't sit there and eat there. And I get it, man. People are sick of hearing we're going to do this. The one that boggles my mind is when they were 9-4. But look, people loved Rocky. People didn't love Bob Davie. People loved Danny. Well, they love Bronco. I think they'll love him if they win. But I agree with you, man. It's a huge hire. It's a big hire for Eddie, right? It's a big hire for, and it is a critical time. And it's beyond critical. Look, if they would not have been, take the last 2 years or last 2 decades. Look at all the realignment. You hear all the conversation. You see all the scenarios I see. There's some scenarios that have New Mexico left out of whatever this merger is. It's not because of anything else but football. It's the facility. They've got to invest in the facility. For my bowl, for our bowl game to grow, it's got the facility. For Lobo football to grow, the facility's got to get better. But people don't want to invest in it because, you invested in the pit. Look around this room. Every
I think it's Colorado State immediately.
Well,
and San Diego State. Alma mater.
But Wyoming's invested.
Yeah,
Boise State's invested.
Utah
Fresno State's
yeah.
invested. Every stadium in this league has gotten better. Nothing's happened at University Stadium. You got a stadium built in the 60s.
In a hill.
I mean, I don't know what the answer is, but that's part of the solution. You got to invest in that, and I know people don't want to hear that.
You know what? I told you. You know, I'm the voice of Western New Mexico,
Yeah.
and Scott Noble, the athletic director, says the same. They've got a new softball field, a brand new one. It's one of the best in the conference. Coach Noble wants to, invest in the football stadium, make that bigger. He wants to build a new arena. That takes money. That takes winning. Takes a lot. But I think when you make that point about University Stadium, hey, we've got some love for it, of course, right? Saw Mike Williams play, Terrence Mathis. We've seen some great Lobos there, but you know what? It needs it. But to do that, you mentioned that to me this morning. You've got to win.
Let me ask you this: how would you feel? So there's this insane oil and gas surplus. Wyoming invests from the state level. How would people feel if the state gave, I don't know how many millions to get the stadium up to par? Would people lose their mind? Some of them would.
Yeah, they would. Some would.
I think it's not a conversation I'm going to have here or with you about United because I don't understand it, and I'm not putting words in anybody else's mouth. Don't understand it. Never will. That's my opinion. But I remember you made a comment on your morning show, like if they made, I don't know why I remember this, but if UNM had to play elsewhere, would they play at Isotopes Park? I think people would, that if UNM, if they redid the stadium, would UNM play at Isotopes Park? And I think Albuquerque, Borqueños, their head would explode that they'd have to go to a baseball stadium to watch a football game. But it's, I just feel, where the hell am I going with this? I just feel like I don't know if I'm, sometimes as I've moved back, I don't know if I'm walking to a football stadium. I don't, it's weird.
You don't want a new football stadium?
I do want a new football stadium.
Yeah.
I wish that they would and I was so excited when they bowled it 25 years ago or whatever it was.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
Yeah.
I don't know what the answer is because, again, accessibility, I know they're dealing with that, getting people in and out. But you think about it, I mean, more than half of that stadium, you can't get in. You go to any other stadium, you can get in 360 degrees around the stadium. There's gates. Right. You can't get in that whole east side. You can't. Nobody uses the south side. Everybody's coming in that north and east northwest side, and it just log jams. It's such a bummer of a design, and they've got to figure out a way. And I know they're working on it. I know they are.
The New Mexico State game, I remember just seeing people.
The bowl game.
That's the bowl game too. Yeah, everybody was coming in from the north end, and I was like, "There's some."
And it's incumbent on the fans too. Like you can't you can't just grab your last beer 10 minutes before kickoff, and you're getting wanded and metal detectored, and I mean, a little bit is on you too.
Right.
When you go to a game elsewhere, people, I'm thinking about the big time. I'm thinking SEC. They're in the stands like 45
half hour.
minutes. They're ready to go.
It is what it is. So,
Jeff, I want to
Boys.
thank you for your time. Say
No,
that again.
thanks.
I really appreciate your
Keep doing
time.
what you're doing. I'm proud of you. I know you're having fun with it.
Oh yeah.
I'm trying.
I'm glad you guys are here. This is good. Keep doing what you're doing. You're gonna great voice, and people need to hear it. And I'm glad that you're giving people the access to because what I'm not doing, I'm not interviewing all the players this year. So come on over to the Pit Press and listen to them. What we have done for all these years. But I appreciate you spending a few minutes and slumming it with me.
I'm more than happy. I always called it rinky dink. He'll get mad at me. Don't
You
call it
guys are
rinky
good,
dink.
man. Look at your setup, dude. Look at your setup compared to all these other rinky dink setups. You aren't rinky dink.
I'm not.
Look at it. No, honestly, look around the room.
I'm not San Diego Sports 7-6. Those
you're
guys are
better.
gonna. We're gonna have a Sharks and Jets fight. The executive director of the New Mexico Bowl,
Is
Mr.
what
Jeff
in
Sip.
Mexico.
Maybe backtrack. The executive director of the Isleta New Mexico Bowl, Mr. Jeff Siembieda. Jeff, thanks for your time. Hey, enjoy the rest of
I
Vegas.
will, boys. See you.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.